Oftentimes we do not really understand the personalities of doctors, but I have realized now that the personality of a doctor is what dictates how they act and not the profession itself. Hi, welcome to Raving True Books, and today I will be reviewing A Knife to the Heart by Gianni Angelini. So he's an Italian doctor. I liked how many parts of this book they first tell you, oh, this is what is going to happen eventually. For example, when he meets his wife in the book and it's going according to the sequence of events, he's like, oh, this is the woman I will eventually marry. That's what I mean by that. And it was just it's like, it presents a lot of, I would like call it foreshadowing, where you know this is already what is going to happen, but you read it along anyways because, well, yeah. So first off, I mentioned he's an Italian doctor, and there's one thing he mentioned about Italy that was very, it was very concerning. I mean, uh, one of the things reading has taught me so far is that there are so many human traits that are universal, and corruption is one of them. So yes, as a doctor, you cannot really advance in positions in Italy except you belong to a ruling class or something of the sort, and you brought me back home to Nigeria. You don't even have to be a doctor. I mean, pretty much any sector where you work in, you may not get the things you are supposed to get if you are not related to someone or something. Do you understand? That's what I mean by that. So it was like, wow, so it's not only us that suffer this kind of thing, to say everywhere kind of thing. And it was very humbling learning that. But beyond that, I picked up a few things in this book. And one of them is that a man that respects his woman is one of the top. Like, I feel like that's, I don't know how to explain it, but it gives sensible. You get. So, when they get married, I'm about to give a spoiler. I apologize. Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! If you do not like spoilers, skip this scene. If you do not like spoilers, skip this scene. So they get to a point where he's married and his wife decides to stay home and take care of the children. And he says to him that is the greatest work. I mean, in comparison to her nursing job and everything, that is a more demanding job. And I read that place, I felt like clapping for this man because that was in America, do you understand, where things to an extent are easier for women, not in Nigeria. And what I mean easier is that they have 247 lights, right? So you don't have to think, as soon as I get home, I have to blend pepper, or as soon as this. There are so many little things to living in Nigeria that add stress to us that you won't really deep it till you actually go somewhere else. For example, you are toasting bread and never takes light. And for a moment, there's this sort of discombobulation that happens to your brain where you're like, it's just a very unsettling thing. Do you understand? So his wife is not even living in Nigeria, and he's like, he knows that being a mother is going to take a lot from her. I felt like clapping for this man, and I was praying that men everywhere would come to the understanding that raising children, raising a home, is a lot more work than any other thing. There is no job as difficult as that. There's nothing you want to tell me. There's no explanation. I don't want to hear. I really don't want to hear. Because even medicine, like, being a surgeon is a very difficult job, especially from what I have read. Some surgeries run for hours and all of that. But you see, raising children, you don't take a break. If you're a surgeon, you can go home sometimes. Yeah, you also have breaks and all of that. You don't stop being a mother or a father. You don't. It just goes on and on. And I like that he was able to understand that his wife had to take on double of a duty because he was not going to be around because he's a doctor, and his wife was being both mother and father to her children, not in the sense where the father abandoned the children, but in the sense where he knew that his job would take so much of his time, so much so that his wife would be the person, the parent that his children had to depend on. He was also there for them. Oh. I'm not saying he wasn't there for them. He was there for them. I beg. Yes. Another thing a knife to the heart taught me was that Life is very fragile. I mean, if you read how some surgeries go on, how this moment this patient is feeling good, all of a sudden the patient dies, it's very disheartening. Also, you see this thing about corruption, how it's everywhere in medical sector where it is present. It's very painful because you are dealing with human lives. So I see no reason why you should rate your ego over a person's life. But it is very difficult to do that actually, because as a doctor you are predisposed to have a sort of almighty ego where you save lives. I see there is almost nothing that can give someone the kind of almighty ego like saving lives. Saving lives or taking lives. Like, I think it works both ways because I've read some very wonderful accounts, you know. So yes, it makes you feel all powerful, and it goes into your head. There's no way it will not. In fact, it will be very difficult for it not to go into your head, especially when it is something that is recurrent, and then you're also known for your high success rate. You'll be like, so when these people were making mistakes in this particular hospital, they refused to admit it. And I just wondered the number of victims that suffered from that. Like, I know I was reading about it as a reader, but the truth is, this happens to real life people. There are people who have been deprived from seeing their loved ones because of this kind of event, and it was a very painful thing. It just showed how sometimes, even in the best of places, the mistake can just be that a person rates their ego over the quality of their work, and that is bad. A Knife to the Heart was a DNF for me. I tried so hard to finish, but this is not my favorite genre. So it was so hard. I kept on pushing through. I pushed through so much. I mean, I want to check how many percent I'm in. 7.2%, but I can go no further. I can go no further. It's a really nice narrative, but I'm just not the perfect audience for it. Do you get? And that's all for me for A Knife to the Heart. If you're looking for a mm, more like a manual kind of medical memoir, I recommend this book. And that's all for me. Bye.